Hello, good morning. Am I too loud? It's fine, okay. Good morning and bonjour to the Francophones. You are all welcome to Accra this morning and to Menswick Hotel. Bon arrivé to all our Francophone colleagues. We are happy to have you here. My name is Gina Teddy. I'm going to be your chair, your MC. That's a big task, being the MC and being the chair at the same time for this morning. I'm very honored to be part of this meeting, and I'm very honored to be welcoming you this morning to the 6th WANEL consultative meeting, as well as the first Inception Recover meeting. We keep saying recover, but the full name for recover is rectifying the effect of COVID-19 on vulnerable population in West Africa, a research action, and it's been abbreviated into what we are known as recover. My duty this morning is to engage us and to make sure that we follow the program, which is to introduce people as much as to get them to tell you the purpose of our meeting for the next 2 days. I just want to say and acknowledge the organizers of this meeting. As you know, meetings such as this require a lot of effort and coordination, and I really want to acknowledge the team for putting this together and making it possible and bringing us safely here. Because of social distancing, can we please observe the social distancing rule by at least leaving a chair in between, unless you are a couple, which means it's not possible. But if you are not, can we please space ourselves out by leaving one space or one chair in between, just so that we can observe the social distancing rules. Also, you can have your mask on throughout. Of course, it's impossible to do that when you are eating and when you are doing other things like drinking water. But as soon as you finish doing these things, do well to put your masks back on. We've been giving N95, but if we are not fussy, so far as you have a mask on, we are happy to have you in the room. Just so that you know, housekeeping, when you get out of the right door, after the administrators, there is the bathroom is right there if you need it. Just in case there is fire or anything, also that you can exit from either the left or the right. And take it easy. We are not expecting any emergencies, but just in case. So with that said, I just want to say a little bit about Recover as well as WANEL. So WANEL started in 2015, and we are going to see the patrons of those who started WANEL, the key purpose of it, which the country rep will be speaking to, but I just want to highlight that it started off as the idea of building health systems in West Africa. As we can see with the COVID-19 emergence and so ongoing, we know that systems thinking, health systems is very valuable. And for that matter, all of us, our role in making things work and making things happen, ensuring that our countries do not collapse under any emergencies such as what we are experiencing is very important. We have various roles. We are not all health systems thinkers, but we are here predominantly because we do contribute towards the building of health systems in our various countries. WANEL is also seen in all the West African countries. Of course, some of you will be wondering what is WANEL? It's the West African Network for Emerging Leaders. Not everybody here is an emerging leader. We have some experienced leaders here. The essence of it is to get some balance so that the matured and experienced leaders amongst us can support and guide the emerging leaders to take over. So WANEL is actually seeing the sustainability of the competencies that we require to make sure that our health systems function and function effectively. This is the 6th meeting for WANEL, but this is the very first initial meeting for the Recover project. And the Recover project, which I've told you the full name of, is a very important milestone for WANEL, in that it is the very first funding project that WANEL by itself had acquired. And this is going to be done across the 15 West African countries. And it also demonstrates that WANEL is a strong independent network, and networks are important to accomplish a lot, in that we don't have to be in each country or travel to each country, but we can rely on our networks and friends or colleagues in other countries to understand what is going on across the sub-region. And for that matter, this meeting is very important. And we are going to actually combine WANEL activities together with the Recover project activities so that people will understand as they go from here what we are doing and the essence of WANEL. Without much ado, I want to introduce Augustina Kodria, who is the WANEL country rep or coordinator, to come on stage to join the director on the podium. Please, can we welcome her with a round of applause? I also want to invite Jean-Paul Dosso, who is the WANEL chair and also the main PI for the Recover project, to also join us. I'm sure you all know WANEL. Anyway, it is our tradition to call the, let me say, the owners of the land, which is why I asked Augustina to come first, because she's the country rep, before calling the chair of the organization. By Ghanaian tradition, if you do the other way around, you have to go and buy schnapp, and I think I'm very broke, so I don't want to go and buy schnapps. So that is the essence of asking her to come in first. I also want to follow up by inviting another colleague, Dr. Roger Atinga, who is, Roger, you are the TWG or co-chair for WANEL. And I want you to come on stage and join. So normally at these programs, this MC will say, Chairman, your audience, and your panelists, but I'm the same person. So I'm just going to hand over to, oh, I forgot to introduce our landlord, Dr. John Williams, who is the one in charge of the Dodowa Health Research. Okay, so you are all welcome. And I'll hand over to Augustina to introduce her and give us the speech.
Thank you, Gina. Good morning. So I can remove my marks. I'm quite far from the rest of you. So my role here is to welcome you again to Accra, Ghana, and also to tell you a little more about WANEL. And Gina has already told you what it stands for. So this is the West African Network of Emerging Leaders. But you realize that there's not only leaders who are emerging, we also have emerged leaders. And the idea, as she said earlier on, is to ensure that we are building capacity as we go along. Okay, so the network is growing and is making impact, not only at national level, but also international. It's bringing together researchers, policymakers, practitioners, the media, and others together. And this is something through the Recover. We have different individuals working together. So we are more than just a network. We've become a family. So I'm sure you saw a lot of people interacting, laughing, and we are not supposed to be hugging, but also hugging. It's because we are more like a family. Okay. So I want us in this workshop to enjoy, learn, and interact, and also have fun. Thank you very much, and welcome to Accra, Ghana, and to the workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Augustina. I just want to acknowledge our colleagues who are joining us online. We know you can hear us and we are happy that you are able to join us. We are looking forward to your engagement and we are excited that in one way or the other, you are able to hear us and engage with us. So our next activity is to receive the opening remarks from our WANEL patrons, who most of them cannot be here. But I'm hoping that they can be able to show their videos online so that we can see them as they make their presentations. So I'll just introduce them all and then we'll take the messages from each of them. So the first one, which is Professor Irene Ejipon. I believe most of you have met her or know her. And there will be a couple of you who are now joining us, so you may not have known her. But she was the one who mooted the idea for WANEL. She is a public health consultant. She also, for a very long time, worked with the Dodowa Health Research Center. And I'm saying for a very long time because she just went on retirement. She's very passionate about health systems. She's also the chair of the Health Systems Global, a past chair, and she's done a lot of work around health, global, public health, global health, as well as health systems. She's a member of the Ghana College of Physician and Surgeon and a main PI for Comcast, which gave birth to WANEL. One of the projects for, one of the deliverables for Comcast is to build a network in West Africa. And that is how WANEL came about. And that is why she is one of the key patrons who made sure that we are brought together to do what we are meant to do. Her vision is to develop the field of HPSR in West Africa, leading to the emergence of WANEL. And clearly you can see that she's been able or managed to do that. So if Prof is online, I'm going to welcome her to give us her speech as a patron of WANEL. Prof, we can see you. Prof, you are muted.
My apologies, you cannot unmute without the host's permission. I was trying to send a message to the host to unmute me. Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, you all. I'm so excited and delighted to see this, and also impressed but not surprised by the quality of the organization. If you have people like WANEL, Selena, Jean Paul, so many, I should stop mentioning names, otherwise the whole 5 minutes will go mentioning names. I see all these great people around organizing this. I'm not surprised it's such a wonderful event. So congratulations to WANEL. I don't want to say a lot. I can only say, I just feel so proud and happy to see you all here today. And I really encourage you to just go even higher. And I remember your meeting in Niger, Niamey, Niger, and the very great plans that you developed there. And among the plans was to further build WANEL by, once you consolidate WANEL, reaching out to the next generation of emerging leaders. And I want to put that on the table now and remind you that those plans in Niamey were great, to try and reach out into people in master's programs, even undergraduate programs of early careers in ministries of health who are interested in health policy and systems. Now that you have established and consolidated, to go to that next step and follow up on that, there lies your future. So congratulations. I'm so proud to see this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. We are so proud of you too. Okay, so our next patron to give us a speech is Professor Isiaka Sombie, who is a principal professional officer responsible for research and grants at the West African Health Organization. He is also very committed to researching health systems in West Africa and had played a very big role in the emergence of WANEL. So I'll hand over to Prof. Sombie to give us his speech as a patron of WANEL. I'm not sure if he's around. So I think I'll move on to the next person and then we'll come back if just in case he's around. So the next patron I want to introduce is Dr. Sue Gott, who is an international development professional. When I saw the profile, I was thinking, I think in her past life, she was an African. She loves everything to do with development in Africa. So she supported the process right from the beginning. And she's passionate, not just in Ghana and West Africa, but also in East Africa and other parts of Africa. She's done quite a lot and she's very committed to change because she sees change as the inevitable thing to move forward with. Without much ado, I think I'll allow Dr. Sue Gott to introduce herself and tell us her message.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Gina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. You know, it's such a great honor to be included in this meeting, and thank you so much for the invitation. I also wanted to clarify from the beginning that I'm not yet doctor. I'm almost there as I'm finalizing my doctoral studies now that I'm retired. And I guess it just shows that I believe that capacity strengthening and learning are a lifelong journey. I was thinking back to a meeting. You know, WANEL has had a long, long birth. It was November 2012 on the sidelines of the first Health Systems Global conference when Health Systems Global was launched, that there was a discussion one afternoon with Kadio Kadidiatu from Burkina, Eklu Diudone from Benin, Aku Kwame from Ghana, Professor Isiaka Sombie and Dr. Namadou Keita from WAHO, Professor Jean-Pierre Olivier de Sardin from LASDEL, and myself from IDRC, to really discuss the challenges that were confronting emerging leaders and researchers from West Africa. Prof. Irene had just been elected the first chair of Health Systems Global and was running nonstop, but she was there in spirit. And that really was an initial seed of the need for something more concrete for emerging leaders. And it really is the commitment and the leadership of the Ghana Health Service and incredible support from WAHO, especially through the leadership of Professor Irene and ongoing support from Professor Sombie, which created the space for WANEL to emerge. And I know the whole membership of WANEL has worked so hard to build a really strong participatory network with people from across West Africa. And it's your collective passion and vision and commitment that have really demonstrated the power that comes from bridging differences to bring together the immense reservoir of expertise and experience and knowledge that your members have. It's been a long journey, and yet the journey is just beginning. And I think the Recover project will make an important contribution towards addressing the COVID pandemic effects in West Africa. I know that WANEL will play a great role in strengthening equitable health across the region. And I wish you the greatest success in this workshop and in implementing your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Indeed, it's a long journey, but it's just beginning. And I think we are all passionate to see it through and pass it on to those who come after. Okay, so our last person to introduce us, the patron, is Dr. Marie Glorieux, who is also a senior program specialist with IDRC Canada. She has trust and confidence in WANEL, and she has also supported the process. She's also very passionate about development and growth in Africa. I think without much ado, I'll ask Dr. Marie Glorieux to give us her speech. I can see her already ready to give us a speech. Over to you, Marie Glorieux.
Thank you very much, Ina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So thank you very much. First, let me start by apologizing for not being able to join you in person. I really see the energy in the room. I wish I could be there, but we will postpone our big hugs for another time. So thank you. And thanks also to the organizers for having invited me and also associated IDRC to the event. So I'm really grateful and I'm humbled to be associated with WANEL and its work. Not really much to add after the remarks from the great leaders, Sue and Professor Irene, who are also the parents, as Sue was reminding, of WANEL, and also great mentors, among many others as well. And some, I think I've seen them connected also for this workshop. Maybe one thing I would like to mention, and someone was explaining what WANEL means, the West African Network, which I will call of Emerged and Emerging Leaders, still with the acronym. really has a key role in the region and actually globally as well. So I want to emphasize the L in WANEL in terms of leaders, because I really see all of you as thought leaders, and I see the great potential of WANEL in really pushing forward that whole vision of locally led work research, health systems research that is implemented by local leaders. And I'm emphasizing this in the context that now we hear more and more about of decolonizing global health research in general, or health systems research. So I absolutely see, and I've seen already that happening, the great leadership of WANEL in this area. And in terms of Recover as a project, I really, as Sue was mentioning, see the potential of really taking that role during this pandemic, and will be described later, I'm sure, in terms of the objectives of the project, which will address and provide evidence for the short term, but also with a longer term vision in terms of pandemic preparedness. So WANEL, go for it. And I think really for IDRC and me personally, and also my predecessor, Sue Gott, it's really a great pleasure to work with you. I've seen your great work. I've seen your unwavering efforts, working day and night, developing this project, or in a collaborative way. It's really amazing to see. So I'm coming really with a very warm heart, and I look forward to our discussions during these 2 days that will be with you and others as well. And wishing you also a great workshop. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie Gloria. Thank you so much for your kind words. I think we are going to move to the next section, where each participant would introduce themselves. I think I just will need you to tell us your name, which country you are coming from, and the institution you belong to, and how you are affiliated to WANEL or the Recover project. So I need 4 things from you: your name, country, institution affiliation, as much as whether you are associated with any of the we are associated with any of it. But before we get there is one more patron that we are going to introduce to give us his, and I told you earlier on that he is the landlord, to give us his patron speech and his view, his vision towards WANEL, as he is the one now coordinating the man that we go to. In Ghana, we called him the elder of the house. So without much ado, he is here in person. We are going to call on Dr. John Williams to give that to us.
So, Madam Chair, and then distinguished invited guests, good morning to you all. So on behalf of the Dodua Health Research Center, who are the hosts of the WANEL Secretariat and the Recover Project Secretariat, thank you. I wish to welcome you all to the Recover Project Inception meeting, which is also doubling as a workshop, a research workshop for WANEL. especially to those who are visiting Ghana for the very first time. I would also like to use this opportunity to congratulate WANEL for working hard to obtain this project grant from the IDRC. Let me also thank IDRC for this grant, which has granted a new lease of life to WANEL, given that the Comcast project, which gave birth to WANEL, is ending. And there were concerns about the medium to long-term sustainability of WANEL. So what this grant has done is to keep the network busy, at least for the next 2.5 years. So with the clock ticking fast towards the end of the first year of this project, I would like to entreat the leadership and members of the network to start looking beyond the lifespan of this project while working hard to achieve project objectives by looking for grants which will assure the medium to long-term sustainability of the network. This will ensure that WANEL will not suffer the same fate as other well-meant health networks in Africa, which did not survive after a while. And I don't want to mention particular networks, but there are a few of them. And WANEL has great potential, and we have to ensure that this potential is realized. So on that note, I wish you all fruitful deliberations in this 2-day meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Landlord. We are very pleased to charge us to look for more activities and funding projects that will sustain WANEL, and also for charging us to try as much as possible to make sure that we deliver on the project. We thank you for your advice. So we are going to go to the next activity, like I said, and I'm sure this has given you the time to put your thoughts together, so that we don't want, because of the numbers, please try as much as possible to keep to the script, which means that you tell us the 4 things that we require of you. As we go along, we'll be networking and getting to know each other more. So I need you to mention your name. I need you to tell us the country you are coming from. I also need you to tell us the institution that you work with, and also how you are affiliated to WANEL or the Recover project. Since we have people online, I'm wondering if we should start with those online and then move on to those who are here in person. Can we show those online so that we can ask them to introduce themselves? Technician, can you please show the Zoom participants? Okay. So we have Emil Johnson. Emil, can you please put on your camera and unmute yourself and then introduce yourself to us? Emil, can you hear us? Hello, Emil, can you hear us, please? Okay, whilst Emil sorts himself out, we'll invite Edward George. Edward, if you can hear us, are you the host or you are a participant? You are Edward, okay. Okay, so the last person here is, I'm not sure, a picture without, Okay, so the organizer will have to unmute Emil. Please, can you go ahead and do that? Maybe he's speaking.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'm very glad to be following the meeting from here. My name is Dr. Paco Scandajo. I'm from Benin Republic. I'm a researcher at Center of Human and Public Health Research, CERUD. So as part of Recover project, I will be a co-PI for the cluster 1, which means I'll be working with countries such as Togo and Niger.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if anyone else is there. Okay, so we are going to go on to the in-person introduction and get people to introduce themselves as they come along. So we'll start right from here.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Mohamed Diko Ahmed, chercheur au PSB Santé, Institut Santé de la République de la Guinée-Bissau. Merci.
Thank you. I am Rodion Konu from Togo. I work with a research structure called CARESP. We do research in epidemiology and public health. And then as for WANEL, I am a member, and for recovery, I will work in the cluster 1 as representative of Togo. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde, moi je m'appelle Abdoulaye Guino, je viens du Mali. Je suis maître assistant à la faculté des lettres et des sciences humaines de l'Université des lettres et des sciences humaines de Bamako. Je suis coordinateur régional de WANEL au Mali et pour Recover, je suis membre du cluster de la Guinée avec la Sierra Leone, le Libéria et le Mali. Je vous remercie.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Maman Sani Souley, je viens du Niger. Je suis anthropologue, chercheur associé au LASDEL, laboratoire d'études et de recherche sur les dynamiques sociales et le développement local. Pour le WANEL, je suis coordinateur régional Niger et dans le cadre du projet Recover, je suis dans le cluster 1 avec le Bénin et le Togo. Merci.
Bonjour tout le monde, moi je m'appelle Ramatoulaye Diallo, je viens du Sénégal, je suis spécialiste en communication et plaidoyer. Pour le WANEL, je suis la secrétaire du comité de gouvernance et je fais partie aussi de l'équipe qui a rédigé le proposal du Recover sous le leadership du Dr Jean-Paul Dessous. Merci.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Fatou Kébé, je viens du Sénégal, je suis la coordinatrice pays WANEL au niveau du Sénégal. Je suis sociologue, actuellement consultante pour le compte de NOC International. Dans le cadre du projet Recover, je suis là en tant que consultante et membre de l'équipe avec des collègues du Burkina et du Bénin. Merci beaucoup.
Good morning. I am Mansour Mohamed Kourouma from Sierra Leone. I'm a lecturer at the Anes by Kourouma University of Science and Technology. I am the country coordinator for WANEL and a member of the Guinea cluster for the Recover project.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Dr Nda Ezoa Michel, socio-anthropologue l'Université Félix Houphouët-Boigny d'Abidjan, au Codi, précisément Institut d'ethnosociologie. Je suis coordinateur pays Côte d'Ivoire du WANEL et je fais partie du Cluster 1 pour le projet Recover. Merci.
Bonjour tout le monde, je suis Kadio Kadidiatou, je suis chercheur du Burkina Faso à l'Institut de recherche en sciences de la santé IRSS à Ouagadougou. Et je suis membre WANEL, je suis coprésidente du groupe de travail sur les politiques et systèmes de santé. Je suis également PI du cluster 5 dans Recover et je coordonne l'équipe du Burkina, de la Côte d'Ivoire et du Sénégal. Merci.
Oui, bonjour, je suis professeur Clément Médard au département de santé publique de l'Institut supérieur des sciences de la santé, Université Nazi Boni à Bobo-Dioulasso au Burkina Faso. Je suis membre de WANEL et associé au projet Recover Cluster 5. Merci.
Good morning. I'm Isabella Araújo. I'm from Cabo Verde and I'm a professor at the University of Cabo Verde. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde, je suis Radono Myriam Sonia, je suis journaliste. Je suis chargée de communication au CERUD au Bénin et puis je travaille sur le projet Recover. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hashim Mpati. I'm a research assistant at CERUD in Benin, and I'm part of the cluster 1 of Recover. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ijoma Okedo Alex. I'm from Nigeria. My institutional affiliation is the African Institute for Health Policy and Health Systems in Ebonyi State University, Abakaliki, Nigeria. I was part of the team that drafted the protocol for the Recover project, and I also work as the deputy PI for the Recover project in Nigeria. I'm also a member of WANEL. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nanefwa Enyimayawafun, and I'm from Ghana. I work with Dodoa Health Research Center, and I'm a WANEL member. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Lauren Wallace, and I'm from Ghana, but originally from Canada. And I work at the Dodoa Health Research Center as a senior researcher. And I'm here as a WANEL member and also in my capacity as the Ghana country PI for the Catalyze project, which is another project looking at COVID-19 in West and Central Africa. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Badara Diaby. I'm coming from Guinea, affiliated with the University Gamal Abdel Nasser of Conakry. And as for the affiliation of the project, I act as co-PI for the country, the PI being Professor Alexander Delem. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Juliana Nyamo. I am an economist, currently independent researcher. I'm consulting with ThinkWell, but I'm looking for a long-term institutional affiliation. I'm a WANEL member, chair of the thematic working group on supporting all initiatives that want to strengthen health systems in the region. As far as the Recover project is concerned, I will be a researcher working in the cluster led by Burkina Faso. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am Gilbert Abinro. I'm from Ghana. I'm a lecturer at the University for Development Studies, based in Tamale, Ghana, the northern part of Ghana. I'm a founding member of WANEL, and I've been an active member. So as far as the recovery project is concerned, I'm available for any role in terms of research. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dakina Jackson. I'm from Liberia. Work with the Ministry of Health as the Deputy Director for Research in the Health Information Monitoring, Evaluation, and Research Unit at the Ministry of Planning, and also work with the National Public Health Institute. I'm a field epidemiologist, a profession, and for the Recover project, I will be a co-PI on the project.
Okay, thank you. We have somebody at the end.
Yes, my name is John Boatin from Ghana, and a researcher with Parliament of Ghana, and a co-country coordinator, WANEL Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Theodora Yeboah, and I'm from Ghana, and I'm a research assistant in the cluster 2 of the Recover project.
Thank you, Theodora. So I'll give those on the podium, the two gentlemen, to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roger Tenga. I'm a lecturer in the Health Services Management Unit of the University of Ghana Business School, a founding member of WANEL. And then we are the country, should I say, coordinators for the Recover project. Thank you.
The room seems very silent. I don't know why everybody is like so shy. Are you feeling shy? Yes or no? You should not. Definitely not, because here we are home. And here we are in family. This is why when I'm saying good morning, I really want the room to respond. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. Bonjour. I'm really happy to introduce myself as Jean-Paul Dossou. I'm very honored to support the network as the chair. I'm really honored to coordinate the ideas and the contributions from all of you that led to the Recover project. And I'm really honored to be sitting close by the director of the Dodowa Health Research Center, that I will really want you to applaud. Please give a warm applause to, and I want a really warm one, please. A really warm one. And all our patrons that are online, they really know that we fully respect all what they gave to us. First, as a vision. Second, as a trust. Trust means a lot for what we are having in this room today. And I would like also really you to give them a really warm applause. A warm one, please. And thank you for all what you are doing for this network and all what you still have to do. Merci beaucoup d'être là et merci pour votre attention.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. To introduce myself as well, my name is Gina Teddy. I'm the cluster lead for the Ghana group, which consists of Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, and the Gambia. And I'm pleased to be your MC this morning. I look forward to our deliberations. So we'll move on to the next activity, which is to get to hear from the project manager, Miss Selena Defoe. She's going to tell us about WANEL research and tell us so far what they have achieved or not, and where we are going or the next steps. So I would like to invite Selena to come and do the presentations for the project. So please pay attention, and then you can ask your comments after the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teddy. So a warm welcome to all of us once again. We thank God for travel mercies. We thank God for journey mercies. It's such, an excitement to see all of us once again. I'm so elated. So a warm welcome to you all once again. So before I present, I talk about the WANEL research project. Please, I would want us to take note of a few housekeeping information. So for all our traveling participants, you will be required to present another PCR test results on your way back. So at Kotoka, some of you have confirmed that you don't need to do a second test on arrival in your countries. But before you leave Accra, you'll be required to do it. So yesterday we sent, detailed information telling you about what needs to be done. So you have to register online so that you need that, the lab needs that information to send you your test results and travel certificate. So we couldn't have done that registration on your behalf like the one we did for you when you were coming. So kindly take note of the information we sent you yesterday. Fill out the form, keep your ID number. Participants traveling on the 12th, on the 12th, which is Saturday, will have their samples taken tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. at the Secretariat. So the lab technicians, the people will come here, take the sample. It's very quick. So everybody that is traveling on the 12th, that is Saturday, please ensure that your sample is taken and you're going to get your results and your travel certificates within 12 hours. So please take note of that. And yes, for the hotel has just alerted that the lunch is a buffet lunch. But for personal reasons, anybody that would want to have a packed lunch should notify now so that it will be put together for you. In fact, they are running out of time. So they've come time without number. I've just asked them to give me some time. So now I have the opportunity to let you know. So we'll be sending a sheet of paper around. If you don't want to do the buffet at the restaurant and you want to have a packed lunch, kindly put down your name so that it will be communicated to the restaurant for that to be done for you. Also, this evening, we are going to have a workshop dinner. A group dinner at a very, it's a surprise, won't tell you. So we want to know, we will send a sheet of paper around. I know all our external, participants, I have volunteered you for the dinner. You can't say you won't go, you have to. All work and no play. You have to go play small. So all the traveling participants will be going for the dinner. Our local participants, you are welcome to join us. So we are sending the sheet of paper around. If you want to go, we need to communicate the number as soon as possible, confirm the number we gave them. So please, let's treat this as urgent as soon as the sheet of paper gets to us. Yes, and then the last thing, Wi-Fi code is not needed, they said. You can just connect, so plug and play and enjoy Wi-Fi. So thank you very much. Now to my presentation on the WANEL research project. So when Dr. Sue was talking, she said it's been a long journey. And it's so exciting to see that the people who began this journey are still here. It's so, so exciting. Looks like, I mean, the field of HPSR really has a future in West Africa indeed. We thank God for the likes of Professor Irene, who had that vision, the likes of Dr. Sue, who supported that vision so much, the likes of Professor Sombie, who are still supporting us. It was such a wonderful feeling to go back memory lane. It was here in Mensvik in 2015 when we had the inaugural meeting. I mean, unfortunately today we are in this big room because thanks to COVID, but then we were in their small room and it was such a close meeting. We sat around round tables and it was that the bond was solid. And one thing we took out from that meeting was, yes, we can. Professor Irene made that statement and we all supported it. Yes, we can. And here we are today, 6 years down the line. Come on. We made it. Come on, WANEL members, you should be proud of yourselves. I mean, we've made it. We didn't know. I mean, COMCAPS is ending. We were wondering what will become the life of WANEL after. And here we are, growing stronger and bigger. It's a wonderful feeling. And then what really excited me was to see the WANEL country coordinators, members of the executive board sitting with director at the high table. 5 years ago, it was all seniors. And today, the beautiful thing about this is all the seniors are still supporting us. And our emerging leaders have now emerged. Isn't this wonderful? This is great. And I'm happy to be part of this family. So it's been a long journey filled with so many activities. And I'm going to talk about one of the activities. So that's the WANEL research project. It's a participatory action research. So I'm saying the journey so far and the next steps. Next slide, please. Okay. So it's going to be, I'm going to try to be as short as possible. So I have just 4 items. So I'll just give a brief background. A lot has been said. I won't waste so much time. I'll talk about the research activities since 2018, and then share some preliminary findings today, and then next steps. Next slide, please. Okay, so background. So WANEL, we all know was, an offshoot, if I should say, of COMCAPS. So we all know COMCAPS, the project that, sought to build health policy and systems research in West Africa and strengthen, MNCH research and leadership in the sub-region. So it's COMCAPS West and Central Africa. So we had Cameroon involved. So COMCAPS had 5 work packages. The work package 1 focused on leadership, work package 2 on research, capacity development, work package 3 was on researcher policymaker relationship, and then work package 4 focused on the development of multidisciplinary, multi-level leadership and research networks for Health Policy and Systems, and MNCH in West and Central Africa. Now, all the 5 work packages became focus for PhD projects. So colleagues we had few colleagues handling different aspects of the COMCAPS project. And I happened to be given, or I was given work package 4 to work on. So the PhD project or the COMCAPS fellowship was initially envisioned as internal evaluation of the COMCAP project and its associated, interventions. So WANEL at the time was the only network that had, emerged. There was the dream or the vision to support community of practice for communicators, but that had not taken off then. WANEL, because the whole COMCAPS really came into effect in 2016, but WANEL had already started in 2015 with the inaugural meeting or regional consultative meeting we had here that focused on just emerging leaders or early and mid-career researchers in the sub-region. So the WANEL research project was conceived as a doctoral evaluative research, as I said. So why did we choose, participatory action research? So participatory, please hold on, go back. Thank you. Participatory action research because WANEL, in fact, the birth of WANEL was inspired by 2 other global and regional initiatives. So the Emerging Voices for Global Health, and then the CHEPSA Emerging Leaders Program. And it will interest you to know that the founding members, the actors who formed this WANEL, majority of them were alumni from either the EV program or the CHEPSA Emerging Leaders Program. But there is something interesting about WANEL, that even though the inspiration came from these 2 initiatives, WANEL had a life of its own. It was innovative in its own way and needed to be understood and appreciated in its context. Now, we haven't been there before. We are trying something. So we are walking the road. We are working to, create the road, actually. So it's a learning process for us all. And participatory action research was to give us the opportunity to learn together and build this network together. That is the reason why participatory action research was adopted. Next slide, please. In addition to the participatory action research methodological approach that we adopted, the research work was also going to be a theory-based evaluation, or we adopted theory-based evaluation approach, which more or less focuses on using, an explicit theory to explain a development intervention. So what have we been doing in this context of WANEL research project since? So the project started in 2018, actually. Prior to that, we had an introductory course, pre-doctoral training, which introduced some of us. Back, please. Thank you. Which had introduced, the pre-doctoral candidates to the rudiments of health HPSR. So that prepared us, but the PhD journey itself started in 2018 when we got enrolled. And we needed to develop the WANEL theory of change. So for us, it has been a very iterative process since 2018. So the first, next slide, please. The first output was this theory of change diagram or graphic that I presented at our meeting during the AFIA conference. So normally theory of change is a collective process. It comes out from a collective process. So you co-construct the theory of change of your intervention. But for some reason, we didn't have the resources and the luxury of time to come together in a meeting just to develop our theory of change. So we had to focus on using documentary analysis to understand what theory is guiding this intervention or what theory is underpinning this WANEL initiative. So this first output got lots of comments from colleagues. Next slide, please. And was refined. So in 2019, that was the output that was presented. And then in 2020, this is what we came up with further documentary analysis and based on comments received on the first one, we had this second output, which was presented this time, not in a context of a meeting, but on a one-on-one consultative meeting, actually. So somewhere in October, November last year, 2020, I had a one-on-one meeting with about 20 founding members and very active WANEL stakeholders to comment on this, to share their feelings, if this really speaks to what they set out to do. And wonderful comments came up. Most of what we were hearing was, yes, we were telling the WANEL story, but the graphical presentation really was not appropriate somehow. Some found it a bit too linear, things are not as straightforward as you would think. And so, as I mentioned, Dr. Sue has been, IDRC has been and has given us relentless support every step of the way. So the consultative period, meetings involved IDRC stakeholders actually. And so after that, 1 month consultative meeting, the next slide, please. The next iterative is what we have here. This is what most of us have not seen. So thank you all who commented. Thank you all who made inputs. The graphical presentation of the earlier ones was a bit clumsy, was too loaded, was too busy. We needed something that was, straightforward, something that will carry the message. And so this was adapted. Sorry, I didn't include that. This was adapted from the IDRC Governance for Equity in Health Systems projects, their theory of change. This is an adaptive version of that one because it spoke clearly to the vision. WANEL and COMCAPS actually came out of that IDRC project. So somehow the vision aligned. So this is what we adapted. We adapted it to the WANEL situation. So it is an S-curve, a very straightforward one. And the illustration is just a metaphor to describe possible growth trajectory, whereby a community or population become established, begins to flourish, and numbers increase rapidly till they hit, the limit. So down there, we have our contextual resources. Even though the field of HPSR was not as advanced or was lagging behind, we didn't have the capacity and all, the context, the West African context was endowed with so much resources. Both human and then the context was somehow favorable for us to develop or to harness those resources to develop the field of health policy and systems research. So harnessing that contextual resources enabled the emergence of that network, which is becoming a mechanism or providing a space for the acquisition and consolidation of HPSR competencies and skills. And it is a cyclical process because WANEL, you don't just emerge and go, but you hold the hand of the next one behind you so that you pull along. And as we pull along, the whole vision is to build a critical mass of people who understand and are able to not only undertake HPSR, but are capable of applying HPSR to solve problems. So as we develop a critical mass with the capacity and the ability to do HPSR and use it, of course, the context will become more and more favorable. I mean, where we'll have high quality, research outputs in the right quantity to address problems as and when it is needed. And one peculiarity about WANEL is, unlike Emerging Voices program and then the CHEPSA Emerging Leaders program, which was driven or right on the wings of training, WANEL doesn't have the resources to conduct training, but we use relationship. So it is driven by relationship to, you use what you have, who you know, to learn what you have to learn. So a space where, we do peer learning, sharing of information, sharing of opportunities to help each other grow in this field. So that is a peculiarity about WANEL. Next slide, please. So that theory of change, to make it operational or to be able to use it, was translated into a form of logical framework. So we know clearly what our activities are going to be, the outputs that are going to be, that we will be getting from those activities, the outcome or the intermediate outcome, the outcome, and then the end goal to which we will be contributing. So I have provided indicators for all the elements with the exception of the end goal, simply because I leave the end goal as, before the end goal is our ceiling of accountability. Our work is contributing towards strengthening health systems for better health outcomes in the sub-region. But our ceiling of accountability ends at, having the human resource that has the ability to do and to use HPSR. So we are going to generate and apply it. And as we do it, hopefully we contribute towards strengthening health systems in the sub-region to achieve better health outcomes. So we have 5, activities to which I'll be focusing on now. So I've done a mapping exercise of WANEL activities since its inception. So those mapping has been mapped on the activities as they are. So next slide, please. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. So activity number 1 was to leverage social network applications and other communication platforms to nurture the embryonic network that was birthed after the inaugural meeting we had here in Mensvik. As I mentioned earlier on, there was a pre-existing relationship amongst the founders of this network. But to nurture and grow it, we wanted to stay connected. So we were going to leverage on social media application. WANEL didn't have any money then to do anything lofty. So that was what we were doing. And then with time, formalize the network. And as we formalize the network, it becomes a mechanism to provide these opportunities, training, coaching, mentorship to the members of the network towards building their capacity. Not only that, connecting them to other related networks globally, and then undertake joint collaborative engagement across countries, disciplines, and institutions. So these are the 5 activities that was the focus of the analysis we did. So next slide, please. Okay, so we conducted, so since its inception, leveraging social media or social network applications. So we created the first Google's group in 2016, which was followed by a Facebook account in 2016, a Twitter handle followed, and then numerous WhatsApp platforms. Next slide, please. So these are the WhatsApp platforms. So COP1L was created in 2017, and then it got shut down or terminated in 2019. It was followed by WANEL Global, which got shut down in 2019. And currently we have the WANEL Members Forum. This was supposed to be a precursor to a policy we were going to adopt, which was members only. So we make opportunities and resources available to members only. And we're starting with the new WhatsApp that we created after the re-registration we did in 2019. And WANEL Executive Board also has various platforms. Next, please. Okay, so we did a social media analysis of the social network applications that we are leveraging. And so we analyzed the content of the COP1L and then the WhatsApp group. So let me just mention the caveat. We didn't look at all the posts. We thought it best to focus on what is HPSR relevant that is being posted on the page. So the analysis of the COP1L and the Google's group from 2017 gave us that following output. So relevant HPSR relevant posts that we saw or that we retrieved on the those social media platforms are opportunities and then publications. So we have a total of 416 HPSR career enhancing opportunities that were posted to the group. Of these, 380 were posted on WhatsApp and then 36 on the Google's group. So that tells you that WhatsApp is the preferred medium for most of our members. Next, please. So this is what it looks like. Next. Okay, so we did, so the opportunities that have been shared were categorized. So we have call for papers or conferences, PhD opportunity, training, webinars, job opportunities, funding, and networking opportunities. So you can see the trend. Looks like webinar is stopping in 2020, and it's not surprising because COVID restricted us so much and everything went online. Okay, next, please. Yes, and then the sources of opportunity. This is of great interest to all of us. So it will interest you to know that of all the postings of opportunities that we are getting on the WhatsApp group, 252 comes from 2 Anglophone colleagues. So if you have a network like this and these 2, so scale free, you knock this one out, you can imagine what is going to happen to network. So it looks like Nigeria is providing impetus for this network that we are working on. We call ourselves members of 2 colleagues. I will mention their name. Next, please. Okay, so, and then publications, great literature, peer review, that is the trend we are saying. Next, please. Okay, so French and English, of course, the same thing we are trying to fight. 2015, when we did a presentation at the inaugural meeting to show that every publication was in French, it was in English, and French was lagging behind. The story hasn't changed much. Next, please. Okay, so are we already connected? In a way, because we are online. It doesn't end there. Beyond just being online, other, concrete career enhancing opportunities have been provided. Next, please. So, training, coaching, mentorship, networking opportunities. So much. 16 people were assisted to attend HSR 2016. Technical as both technical and then financial support were provided. It happened in 2018, and in 2019, AFIA, as much as 18 people received scholarship to attend, these conferences. But mind you, this was COMCAP's vision of providing support. Now that COMCAP is no longer there, how do we sustain such support? Something we need to think about. Next one. Okay, so there is this next thematic working group that is of interest to all of us, and I need to draw your attention to something. So next is focused on helping, access or supporting the application of Francophones to get access to the Emerging Voices program. This was on the understanding that, Francophones are in the minority when it comes to getting access to EV program. But let's see what the data is showing. Okay, so because of this, a whole budget was dedicated to, leadership planning in 2019, dedicated as much as 10% of the available resource to support the growth of, Next. That was how special that group was. But this is what the data is saying. So it looks like we may have to be careful so that we don't bring a solution that will create another problem. An affirmative action to support one group, which will end up, disfavoring Anglophones. You can see that Senegal and Nigeria are the highest. And the Anglophones are as handicapped as the Francophone, if the Francophones are not even in better position. So this is, this data is coming from the Emerging Voices Secretariat. So the Emerging Voices cohorts from 2010 to 2018, this is what it looks like. Looks like Francophones have had more access to EV program than even Anglophone. So dedicating a thematic working group to support Francophones and not look at the holistic picture may not augur well for us. We may have to look at this really, really critically so that either we create a thematic working group focusing on supporting both so that, we don't create further imbalance because one else seeks to bridge that equity gap as well. Okay, last. All right, so this is the one thing that needs to be taken note of is that the network that we were going to use WANEL resources to support members, it turned out that the 29 people that were giving the coaching support from WANEL were not all WANEL members. Only 3 people happen to be WANEL members. The 26, we don't know where they are coming from. So this is something that needs to be looked into and looked at. Next. So yeah, the network has been formalized. We have, since 2018, we have our governance systems and it is functional. But how functional is it? We'll talk about it this afternoon. Next. And then, yeah, I won't have time to give you characteristics of a formal network, but that is what we are trying to build, a research policy network and not a COP. Because WANEL doesn't have the characteristics of a COP. It is a research policy network. Let's take note of that. Last. Okay, so this is the governance structure we are having. Currently, this is what it looks like. But at the last meeting with Professor Irene, she urged that WANEL is a membership group and you can't have the members as the lower, the members should be the final decision-making body and not the other way around. So this is something that leadership will have to really look into as we plan on, strengthening the network going forward. Next. Yeah, we now have a membership database, which was to have given us the basis to start our members-only policies. But even though we have members-only membership database, it's not accessible to members. I'm not sure anybody has seen this membership database yet. So this is something we need to think about. Okay. All right, so this is what it looks like. The growth over time. That's it. There are country coordinators here who came for the inaugural meeting. To date, 6 years on, they are still the only people in those countries. What is happening? Whilst there is exponential growth in certain countries, so what is the internal process that is not facilitating things at other country levels? So we need to look at that. Okay. So in terms of, undertaking joint research activities, I won't waste my time. Jean-Paul will speak elaborately about that. So I thank you for your attention. This afternoon, we'll have the opportunity at the focus group discussion to discuss what our current structure really is and how do we make things better. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Selina. Please reserve your questions for, we are really running out of time. Reserve your questions so that we take them after the next presentation. I want to welcome Jean-Paul to give us his presentation. Please try as much as possible to stick to the time. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. I will focus on the Recover project, following the brilliant presentation made by Selina Defort. Thank you very much, Selina. Thank you very much, Selina. This was a very inspiring presentation, whereby you can see how research, strategic thinking, knowledge combine to support the way we are building the road toward what can be probably a model for other regions of the world. So eventually you are building history in this room, and you have to be aware of that, and thank you for supporting that process. So the Recover project in this story is a very important one. Next slide, please. And I will just focus on some of those key steps. Next slide. By first stating that this workshop have two main goals. Strengthen WANEL, okay? Really looking at insights from the research action, the participatory research action Selina is bringing on the table, and discuss what are those critical ingredients we have to incorporate in the structure of WANEL so that it can sustain and survive. And beyond surviving, live and shine. We want also to incorporate, discuss Recover. That is a kind of fuel for the construction for WANEL, while at the same time it will provide knowledge to solve a critical health problem in the region and in the world. That is COVID-19. Okay, next slide, please. A small background to just tell you why WANEL on the global map of health policy and system research is a special organization. Just to reflect a bit on why West Africa as a geography called space require a special attention on the global map. There are so many reasons for West Africa to be considered as a special place on the global health map because of current key debate on migration, on climate change, on the global security, in terms of global economy, in terms of global politics. It is just not possible for the world to achieve so many of its key of today's agenda without having them achieved in West Africa. It is not possible to solve the migration issue without working on the Sahel, working on the key challenges that linkage to the geopolitics of the Sahel today. Same for issues like terrorism. Same for issues like climate change. So in this room, you are not working only for your country, only for the region, but you are really critical to address challenges that are important for a better world. That in mind, make me wake up every morning with energy, with strength to overcome all the personal, all the family, all the community challenges to keep working for a stronger WANEL and for a stronger health policy and system research in the region. Next slide, please. So when we put recover in that, when we put COVID-19 in West Africa, I won't tell you that eventually up to now, praise to God probably, and also to the intelligence and the structures we are having in place in the region. So far, the number of the direct impact of COVID-19 in the region as compared to other places of the world is relatively limited, even though one death is already a heavy burden. There is no death that can be considered a low burden. Ask the kids of the only person that died, and you will know that even one death is very important, and we have to consider that. Next slide. And as you can see, even in Africa, the number of cases per region are quite different. But this is all telling one thing: there is always be disparity across regions. But what matters for us in recover will come on the next slide. The next slide next slide, please. The next slide focus on those effects that are not like directly related, I will say, to COVID. When you say COVID, everybody is thinking today mainly about the number of cases and the number of deaths. But what about the collateral effect? As in a continent like Africa, eventually the collateral effect will be so much more damaging as compared to the direct effect. So we conceptualized in the background of the recover proposal, collateral effect to have like 3 layers. One back, please, come back, please. So the first level of collateral effect are really those, please come back to the previous slide, please. So we have the first line of collateral effect that's really about the changes directly attributable to the outbreak itself. Then a little bit at the second level collateral effect, we have the changes directly attributable to the interventions or policies to respond to the first level effect. And then we have the level 3 collateral effects that are the changes attributable to the interventions that seek to mitigate the level 2 collateral effect. This conceptualization personally opened my mind, and if we start trying to look at examples of what those collateral effects can be, you can see how large the impact of the COVID-19 can be when we think beyond the changes directly attributable to move up to the level 3 collateral effect. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, we will share the slide so that you can have it. So we have numerous examples that are warning about the importance of collateral effect on maternal health and child health, on increasing vulnerability among girls and women. I have a very personal story about how a close parent suffering from diabetes because of COVID-19 is just so much afraid to go to hospital when she was having complications of diabetes, and is struggling at home to try to deal with this situation, but is so much afraid to go to hospital because of COVID-19. Eventually, let's praise God that the worst will not happen. But if that was had to happen, who will count her as a consequence of COVID-19? Almost nobody. But those are the kind of consequences indirectly linked to the COVID-19, but that we need to have under consideration. Otherwise, we are eventually maybe not, we are only concentrated on the ice, on the top of the iceberg of the consequences of the COVID-19. Next slide, please. So what do we expect from Recover? Next. We expect from Recover to strengthen cross-sectoral linkages to deal with collateral effect of COVID-19 on vulnerable populations in West Africa region. 3 keywords: cross-sectoral linkages, vulnerable populations, collateral effect. So we want to generate evidence through the rapid assessment, and we want also to have a deeper understanding on how those collateral effects are constructed and how they operate. I just give one example of fear to go to health services because of COVID-19. This is a kind of causal mechanism generating collateral effect. So what are the other kind of mechanisms that are generating those collateral effects? So we want to understand that. So first, map what is happening around in terms of collateral effect, and then deepen understanding on how collateral effects are generated and how they operate. And at the end, we want to produce a kind of policy, a framework for policy for the region. Next slide. So what do we have? We have as output the co-produced framework, inclusion of collateral effect mitigation in the outbreak response plans. So you had almost all of you been involved directly or indirectly in developing outbreak response plans. I don't know if in those outbreak response plans, you have a space explicitly devoted to the mitigation of collateral effect and how collateral effects are conceptualized in those responses and how the plans are aligned to address them. Okay, so we will create. So what this kind of policy frameworks will look like, there are several models of what we can call policy frameworks. We have some examples here whereby we discussed the policy instruments and the targeted outcomes. So we can provide some guidance on what could be the targeted outcomes and why, and what kind of policy instruments can be in place to support in mitigating the effect of the collateral effect of outbreaks. Next slide, please. I particularly love these 3 imaginary as we have the framework that can be conceptualized as a tree with a kind of pillar and some branches and some leaves that are providing at the end of the day rationals, targets, policy instruments, and eventually implementation approaches and strategies. So this is what we want to produce at the end to support policy making on mitigating collateral effect of COVID-19 and more broadly, collateral effect of outbreaks on the region. Next slide, please. So key methodological approach, next slide. We will build on a framework that is inspired for the integrated health service delivery framework of WHO that put the person in the middle, but that fully consider that the person is embedded in live in a family that is embedded in a community around which universal, equitable, people-centered, and integrated health services are provided. But those services cannot just as at a crossroad of so many other sectors of activities, including health sector with service delivery networks, governance, financing, and resources. But then at the other side, the orange circle with other critical sectors like education, sanitation, social assistance, labor, housing, environment, and others. And we can even adapt this by adding other critical sectors if you think that can be very relevant for this policy framework to be effective. And while doing that, we'll have 4 critical points in mind: gender transformative approach, system thinking, learning by doing as key methodological approach that will help us. So what is also very important for Recover to be at this stage currently is that we have thought about what the implementation structure of Recover will be. So what we are having there is a kind of a piloting of the implementation structure of a WANEL-led research project. So we will test this structure all over the Recover project and consolidate it. And once this structure will be in place, ladies and gentlemen, we will be so much powerful to attract and implement dozens of other projects just by channeling resources and producing results through this implementation structure. We'll come back on details on that. But in terms of timeline, we have, it is a 3-year project. We are somewhere now in the middle of the year 1. So we'll come back in details, but our priorities now is really advance the rapid assessment. And we will not leave this meeting without having a concrete roadmap on how we will deliver on this rapid assessment. Next slide, please. So activities completed. We won the grant. Next slide. We signed the contract for that. Next slide. We have the implementing partners that are now signed the memorandum of understanding. So the platform is established. And then we have the staff. I think most all the staff are now recruited. So we have the team, and your presence in this room today is a proof of that. Next slide, please. So next, we have country approvals. That was a quite critical one, but we have it. And you can at least confirm that some first round of funds have been now released to the implementing partners so that they have resources. Thanks to the director of the Dodowa Health Research Center, to the very active team working around Selena Defort and the team working around her. So those things are things that are now now out. So I can say the platform is getting established with contract lines, arrangements getting in place, funds getting going out. So the next step, next slide, please, is really about how do we start really deliver, accelerating the activities and getting what we have to be there done. So next. Rapid assessment is, and training. Let's say in this meeting, the rapid assessment we have to leave this meeting with clear ideas about the rapid assessment and how we are going to do it in all the 15 countries. In terms of methodology, in terms of the sources of data, and how we will process all of this to deliver on that. And we will receive specific trainings also on gender transformative approach and system thinking tomorrow to ensure that we will deliver on that. Thank you very much, and may God bless you and WANEL. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Thank you for that. A very in-depth presentation of what is expected under the Recover project. So I think we've heard enough this morning. Our next activity will be after our tea break or snack break. I'm not sure if they are ready for us. The photographer is warning me that you have to take a picture, otherwise you'll not be having your break. So please, where are we having it? Is it in this room? Okay. So please, let's come for a snapshot as evidence that you were here. And then from that, we are going to have our tea break. And then we'll try and resume in the tea break is for 20 minutes. So the time is exactly 11 past. Let's say we'll use 4 minutes to take the picture. So we'll be back here at 11, 35. We'll start at 11:35. Thank you. And please come to the front so that we can take the picture.
Please, can the online audience kindly put on your cameras so that we can capture you in the pictures? Thank you.
Please, those of you who are tweeting, please keep tweeting so that we can trend. There will be another picture outside to the left by the pool. Please head towards the pool. So those of you who are doing the WANEL, you are staying in this room. Sorry, those of you doing recover, stay in this room. WANEL, follow Selena to your venue. So since we are running late, I'm going to ask Jean-Paul to come up and take us through the next activity. Jean-Paul, you have the floor.
Okay. So those who are with us should be in now. Those who are out should be out by now. Okay. So we do need some key clarifications. No, wait, yeah. Let them, yeah. And even with this, help me with this, please. Yeah, no. That's it. Okay. So we will make this really a co-constructive session, and we will make best possible use of the 2 hours time we have. 1 hour. So it was supposed to be 11 to 1 p.m. But okay. So can you come closer, please? I really suggest we move as close as possible to the center of the discussion so that we maximize the interaction. So join the first row instead of saying far on the other row. Come closer to the middle here so that we can have closer interactions. I will try to see if we can display we can work collaboratively on something that can be displayed on the screen. So please, George, join me here, please. So first question, do you all have the proposal of the Recover project? Do you all have the proposal of the Recover project?
Yes.
Who have the proposal of the Recover project? Okay. Who do not have the proposal of the Recover project? Okay. So please, George, ensure that the colleague from Gambia, this is Gambia, have the latest version of the proposal of the Recover project, okay, as quickly as possible. So that is the first key point. So if you have all your computers, do you all have your computers now? Okay. So ça c'est une question très importante. So il demande la version française de la proposition de recherche.
Oui, parce que j'ai la version en anglais et je ne lisais pas à l'anglais.
So nous n'avons pas produit la version française de la proposition de recherche. Donc la proposition de recherche n'existe pas en français. Et ça, c'est une question très pertinente. Donc, nous allons devoir produire la version française de la proposition de recherche pour nous assurer que tout le monde a la possibilité de lire la proposition de recherche en français. So, this is an action point already out of this meeting. We will ensure that we develop the French version of the proposal so that everybody have access to the content appropriately. Yes.
Pour une question clé, chez nous, les lusophones, pour l'approbation du comité d'éthique, il fallait qu'on traduise en portugais aussi.
OK.
Sinon, on ne se met pas.
OK. Donc, he's mentioning that for Portuguese countries, we will require the protocol to be translated in English, in Portuguese. So we will clarify all of that now. First point, at this stage, do we need a protocol and ethical clearance? Hein? Donc, à cette étape, est-ce que nous aurons besoin d'un protocole et d'un avis éthique? Okay? Donc, ça, c'est une question à laquelle je vais répondre tout de suite en disant non. Okay? At this stage of our work, we do need no ethical approval for the rapid assessment. D'accord? Donc, à cette étape de notre projet, la priorité, c'est d'effectuer la revue rapide. Et pour cette revue rapide, nous n'avons pas besoin d'avis éthique. Okay? Because we are not collecting primary data. Parce que nous ne collectons pas de données primaires. D'accord? Pour la... okay. Because we are not collecting primary data. Okay. So because we are not collecting primary data, we do need no ethical approval at this stage of our work. So don't put that in your mind as a problem. But so for that rapid assessment, okay, just to put all of you in context, the Recover project, if you open the proposal, if you have it on your computer open, starting from page 10, you have the project components. Okay. So the project components are explained, are displayed as follow. We have 5 components of the proposal of this project. So the first component is the administrative settlements, okay? Setting up the platform. And we can say now that the platform is in place. There are still some small fine-tuning details, but we can say that the platform is in place. We have quite achieved well the component 1 of the Recover project. Now we have the component 2. Okay. So the component 2 is our priority now. After the component 2, we will have the component 3, the component 4, the component 5, etc. But then at this stage, the urgency is the component 2. And this is what this session will focus on, to clarify what it is about, how the responsibilities are shared to achieve that, and to brainstorm and identify a structure that will guide what we are calling the methodological notes for the rapid assessment. So to guide methodologically the rapid assessment, we will develop a methodological kind of conceptual note, methodological conceptual note to structure and guide the rapid assessment. We will not develop a full research protocol for the rapid assessment, but we will have a document that structure our methodological approach for the rapid assessment. And this session today will help us advance the basics and the principles of performing that rapid assessment. Colleagues currently are working actively on a template that will guide also later on our discussions on this. So how will this session will follow? After this introduction and launch setting stage that I'm doing, I will just literally read through the description of the component 2 that is in the proposal. Then we will take clarifications questions. Then we will move on to the roles of the various parties for that rapid assessment, so that everybody can start thinking, okay, what is my role for this rapid assessment? And then we will later on discuss the structure of the methodological note templates. And then we will finish this session by agreeing on the concrete next step to deliver on this rapid assessment. Is that okay? Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. Is the translation working well? Okay.
Yes, fantastic.
Apparently, Burkina Faso is having some challenges with the translation. Kadi, est-ce que tu as la bonne traduction? OK. OK, d'accord. OK. Et est-ce qu'elle est là maintenant? Très bien. Très bien. So, about the structure of this session, do you have any question or any suggestion? No, okay. So we can proceed to the first key step. But then, so for the component 2, in this component, we will perform a rapid situational assessment of COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities in West Africa region. Concretely, it will include, first point, a stakeholder mapping for cross-sectoral learning to identify who is working in what sectors, what are they doing, where, with which resources, with which influence, interests, and networks in terms of COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities. That sentence summarizes all really what we need to do in terms of mapping the stakeholders as part of the first dimension of the rapid assessment. Cross-sectoral learning to identify who is working in what sector, what are they doing, where, with which resources, with which influence, interests, and networks in terms of COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities. While doing this exercise, we define vulnerable population as people whose situation or context make them especially vulnerable, or who experience inequality, prejudice, marginalization, and limits on their social, economic, cultural, and other rights. For the purpose of this work, we will consider the equi-frame definition of vulnerable groups as detailed in Table 3. An individual or a community may belong to mixed vulnerability groups, increasing its overall vulnerability. This mapping will include individual actors and organizations from community, civil society organization, association of patient NGOs active in protection of vulnerable population, national bodies, various ministries, including Ministry of Health, Education, Social Affairs, National Outbreak Response Organizations, regional level organizations, WAHO, Africa CDC, etc., and international organizations, including UN bodies and others. Okay. Then the vulnerable groups as we define them in this proposal listed as follow. Limited resources, meaning people, poor people, or people living in poverty. Increase the risk, relative risk for morbidity. Mother, child. Female-headed household. Children with special needs. Aged. Youth. Ethnic minorities. Displaced populations. Living away from services. Suffering from chronic illness. And disabled people. Okay? So these are the categories of people we define at the beginning of this project as vulnerable groups. And we have the attribute of the definition in the proposal. Most of the negative collateral impact is embedded in gender power relationships and dynamics. For example, sexual and gender-based violence. It is critical to take this into account both within the identification and analysis of the vulnerabilities and importantly in the co-development of people-centered multi-sectoral strategies. Therefore, specific analysis of gender will be applied to further understand the marginalization and the vulnerability that exists. Okay? So this is the first component of the rapid assessment. That was about stakeholders mapping. I will then move to the second component of the rapid assessment. That is the mapping of strategies to identify and monitor COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities across the 15 countries of the region, with identification of the data generation mechanisms in place, the data sources, the data availability, their quality, and their dissemination plans. A specific gender analysis of existing strategies and data will be undertaken. Okay. So that was the second component of the rapid assessment, the mapping of strategies to identify and monitor COVID-19 collateral effect. And then the third component of the rapid assessment will be a document and literature review and secondary analysis on COVID-19 collateral effect and vulnerabilities in the region. It will aim at describing the collateral effect of COVID-19 in the region and at formulating explanatory hypotheses on what can explain the collateral effect present or absent and their burden. Lessons from the COVID-2019-14 Ebola virus disease outbreak impact on vulnerabilities will be identified through this review. And here as well, gender implications will be specifically analyzed during this exercise. So the rapid assessment will result in country situation report. Country situation report. So we will have to produce a report by country and a regional comparative analysis that identify gaps, overlaps in how the region is monitoring and mitigating the collateral effect of the COVID-19 on the vulnerabilities. It will also identify any emerging and potentially contextually relevant promising practices. This output will facilitate the identification of the priorities that will set the scene for the development of the deep dive case studies. Okay. So as I said in my presentation earlier this morning, we will do the rapid assessment to do the stakeholder analysis, to map the strategies existing, and then we will do a document and literature review to describe the collateral effects that are there in place today that are already reported in the literature. This will result in 15 reports, one report per country. We will pull all those country reports together to develop a comparative regional report. That comparative regional report will identify overlaps, gaps, and will set the scene to identify 5 key cases of studies that require further investigation that will then be processed into a deep dive. Okay. So those deep dives will then require a full research protocol that will seek ethical approvals in countries where they will be implemented, since those deep dives will require collection of primary data. Okay. So I will stop there for now, and we will take 5 to 10 minutes to seek for any clarification, any questions, so that what we have as a bread to eat is clearly understood by all of us, so that we can start prepare our teeth to digest the bread. Oui, Kadi.
Ok, merci Jean-Paul. Je trouve que la présentation est très intéressante. Tout ce que tu as dit est très important. Mais pour vraiment faire un travail de qualité, on a besoin peut-être d'avoir ton document en français parce qu'il y a beaucoup de choses qui ont été dites. Mais bon, la traduction ne nous permet pas vraiment, nous francophones, de saisir vraiment l'essence des choses. Donc voilà, j'ai pris quelques notes. Je connais le protocole, mais il y a des choses qui se sont dites qui plus concrètes, qui n'apparaissent pas dans le protocole en tant que tel. Et moi, je souhaite vraiment que ce que tu viens de dire, si on peut avoir peut-être une séance de travail uniquement francophone ou quelque chose comme ça, ou si tu peux nous partager le document.
Okay.
Parce que c'est pas encore net pour moi. Je sais qu'il y a la cartographie des parties prenantes, ensuite il y a les effets collatéraux, mais il y a plein de choses de détails que, bon, en tout cas, j'ai pas pu vraiment
Très bien.
comprendre.
Déjà, who is taking note for the session? So I know that George, you are working on the notes for the session. Hashim is focusing on the template for the rapid assessment. I know you are working both on that. And also my colleague, Miriam is also taking notes, okay? So ensure that all the questions are properly recorded and, okay? Donc, il y a le besoin du protocole de la proposition de recherche en français. Donc, je prends l'engagement que la proposition de recherche sera rendue disponible en français dans les plus brefs délais.
Oui, et ce que tu présentes là, ça c'est le protocole générique de la recherche.
Non, non. Nous n'avons pas encore le protocole générique de la recherche, de la revue rapide.
Oui.
Nous allons le co-créer avant la fin de l'atelier.
Okay.
D'accord? Donc, les piliers de cette revue rapide seront partagés et chacun on fera nos contributions pour que les principes sur lesquels nous effectuons cette revue rapide soient balisés ensemble. Mais ce que je lis actuellement,
oui,
c'est la proposition de recherche
que
nous avons soumise au CRDI, dans laquelle nous avions clarifié ce que nous avons promis donner comme output au CRDI. Donc, dans revue rapide, nous avons identifié 3 composantes. La cartographie des détenteurs d'enjeux par rapport aux des parties prenantes par rapport aux effets collatéraux de la COVID dans les 15 pays. La cartographie des stratégies qui existent déjà dans les pays pour mitiguer, pour documenter les effets collatéraux de la COVID-19 dans les 15 pays. Et une revue de littérature pour identifier les effets collatéraux déjà documentés et déjà connus dans la sous-région en Afrique de l'Ouest. Voilà les 3 choses que nous avons promis faire dans le cadre de la revue rapide.
Voilà, là c'est plus clair en fait.
Voilà.
Parce que ce que tu viens de dire là, ça n'apparaissait pas. On n'a pas pu capter cela.
Dans la traduction.
Tu vois, alors dans la traduction, non.
Okay,
on n'a pas pu capter. Alors que c'est très important ces 3 choses-là.
Donc notre revue rapide a 3 bras. Stakeholders. What strategies in place to identify and monitor collateral effects? And from the literature, et de la littérature, quels sont les effets collatéraux qu'on connaît déjà?
À travers la littérature.
À travers la revue de littérature. C'est ça. Simple, précis, pas de confusion possible. Mais il y avait une question de... Oui. Rappelez-moi vos prénoms. Rappelons-nous les prénoms en prenant la parole. So let's recall the first name so that we can facilitate also the knowing each other.
Merci bien. Merci pour la présentation. Bon, comme dit notre collègue, il y a quelques mots qui manquent pour nous clarifier. Mais en passant rapidement sur le test, à mon avis, il manque quelques groupes vulnérables qu'on touche chez nous, la population clé, qui sont les plus stigmatisés. Et dans les cas spécifiques de COVID, ils sont beaucoup touchés. Hein? On parle de MSM, on parle de travailleurs de sexe et on parle d'utilisateurs de drogue, hein, de tout type de drogue injectable, etc., etc., etc. Je pense que ce sont les populations que, à mon avis, il manque à ce niveau-là. D'autre côté, on voudrait que vous nous partagez un document bien clair que nous oriente de façon à faire les choses comme il faut. Merci.
OK. D'accord. Merci beaucoup. Oui. The lady and then you.
Merci.
The woman.
Je suis d'accord avec Madame Kadit sur les traductions en français, mais je crois que c'est important en portugais aussi, parce que ces documents, c'est important pour engager les personnes, les institutions, nous avons besoin de ça pour montrer. Et quand nous avons fait le collecte de données primaires, c'est ça. C'est ça, document que c'est la base pour tout ça, pour représenter le comité d'éthique, c'est ça. Je crois que c'est très important, traduit pour toutes les langues que nous avons besoin. Et d'autres choses, c'est sur le vulnérable groupe. Je crois que peut-être chaque pays chaque pays peut donner un autre type de vulnérable, de groupe vulnérable. Parce que nous avons très différents, je crois que nous pouvons faire quelque chose ici pour chaque pays, pour inclure autres personnes qu'il n'a pas ici, qui sont vulnérables dans notre pays.
Merci beaucoup. Chers collègues, juste pour l'audience, recall your first name.
I am Mansour Mohamed Koroma from Sierra Leone. I want to thank you, first of all, for the presentation. It is explicit. And in terms of stakeholder identification, I just need some clarifications. Do we identify them as individuals or by virtue of their positions in their organizations, or we identify the organizations they are working vis-a-vis NGOs, CSOs, or the Ministry of Health?
Thank you for that question. So I will address those three comments, and then we will move on with other comments. First, about the classification of the vulnerable groups. You know, when you take, for instance, the framework that is suggested here, we have a reference. It refers to a specific group of a specific logic that support is this. For instance, when I take HIV, okay, and when I take, for instance, the second category of vulnerable group in our classification here, that say increased relative risk for morbidity. Okay. So when you apply increased relative risk for morbidity to HIV, then you have, for instance, MSM, you have health workers, sexual workers, and you have, for instance, drug users. Okay. For instance, and when you want to work, for instance, on malaria, and you apply increased relative risk for morbidity to malaria, then a different subset of groups can appear. Okay. So vulnerability is always like relative. There are some generic categories that are always vulnerable, regardless of the disease you take. But eventually, there are also some groups of vulnerabilities that emerge when you apply it to a specific disease or a specific category of problem. This is why I agree with your comments that while we will be doing the research, interviewing various stakeholders, looking at the literature review, those groups of vulnerable persons that may not be listed here can be added to this framework to complement it. And specific definitions of those categories also can be added. Okay, and eventually at the end of the project, we can say, here is a classification of vulnerable group to COVID-19 that is grounded on this, but that have been refined and improved to have this final table that is a result and an output also of our research. Okay. Then the translation in Portuguese, this will be done as well. The clear template for the rapid review. The clear template, we will have some ground principles and we will foresee some sessions before tomorrow night to ensure that we all live here with a co-produced template for this. I really suggest it is get co-produced because as you are seeing, realities in various countries, in various contexts can be different, and this richness from all of you is important for us to have a template for the methodological note for the rapid review that is rich and build on all our collective intelligence. About stakeholder or as individuals or as organizations, I think there is a nice course we developed as part of a research on national political economy for UHC that provide a good background. We can ensure we shared, for instance, that material with all of us. But definitely in this work, it is clearly mentioned as well in the proposal that we map both individuals because they have a stake, and we map also organizations because they have a stake. A minister of health can have a stake that is different from the one of the Ministry of Health, and both can be separately mapped and identified as different persons, as different stakeholders. Okay, so it is clear in our methodological approach here, and we can make this explicit when we will be having our template, that an individual in an organization can be mapped as two separate actors. The individual with his own background, his own personal position, his own interest, his own stake, influence, what he's losing or gaining as part of the in relation with the subject. Completely different, that can be the same or completely different from the one of the organization in which he is working. Organization that can have a position paper or an official position, putting forward an ideology, having interest, having a message, a narrative about the same issue. That can be different from individuals in that organization, or that can be aligned. Okay. I will not assume that a representative of WHO is fully endorsing the position of WHO on all the issues about a given problem. Okay. Second round of questions. Let's start from Ghana, Nigeria, Ghana. Because Niger is bigger.
So they'll have a lot of questions. So, you know, the part that says that we'll be mapping the strategy to monitor COVID-19. I'm not very clear. you know what you said, to be mapping the strategies, to monitor it. So this is the one that will help us for the rapid assessment, or is this the one that we are looking at the country-specific strategies that are being put in place that we have to monitor? I'm just, it's a bit vague, so I think maybe some clarity will be helpful. Just that. Thank you.
Okay. Niger.
All right, thank you so much for the elucidations and clarifications. I have a question on the component 2 rapid assessment. The first was stakeholder mapping. So my question is, okay, so after the stakeholder mapping, what next? Are they supposed to be key informants? Some of the information would be gotten by, asking questions and relating with them. But you mentioned the ethical clearance part at the level of the country studies that qualify for deeper search, to be put as deep dive case studies. So I'm worried that at this point we should have ethical clearance, because except these things are just going to be mapped arbitrarily and they will not, we will not have further interactions with these stakeholders as key informants, or even to seek out more things with them, but it's already part of the research. So I want to be clarified on that. And then I'm concerned as well with the literature review and on collateral effects and all that. If you've just browsed or cursorily searched the internet, you find that there is paucity of published evidence on these collateral effects. A lot of literature has been on treatment and other things, but not really on that. So I don't know how we're going to circumvent this, because searching might not yield so much. I don't know. So these are some concerns I've had to, because I've had to just do a quick search to look at what is available. And some of the, for instance, if you see a study that was looking at the effects of the pandemic on blood transfusion services, it's not directly speaking to vulnerability. We could speak because maybe maternal and child health and other people with problems would need blood transfusion, but you may not see some that speak directly to the disabled, to this, to that. Thank you.
Okay. So just to make sure that I get it clear, your first question is about the stakeholder mapping and ethical review. So can I summarize and say, you think that we cannot do the stakeholder mapping without ethical clearance? Is that the point?
Okay, no, not exactly. My point is, after we do the stakeholder mapping, is that where it ends? So we map based on available information to us, or are they going to be key informants to talk more about the influence of their offices and organizations on the vulnerable and then the collateral effects they think? So if we're going to have further interactions with them, they're already involved in the research. So there should be ethical clearance at that point. Sorry, I forgot to mention my name, like you said. I'm Dr. Ijoma Okeda Alex. I'm representing Professor Neke as a PI from Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you. Extend our friendship and respect to Professor Oneke. Okay, I think I get it clear now, and maybe I can solve this and then come back to the question of Kadi that will follow. First, collateral effect, the second component of the rapid assessment. That is about mapping of strategies to identify and monitor collateral COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities across the 15 regions in the 15 countries in the region. I can give one example. Okay, the World Bank in Nigeria set it out to document the effects of COVID-19 on the finances of households. And they shared a kind of questionnaire to collect data on about, I think, 1,000 households and have a report out of that. Okay. This is a concrete example of we can call it a transversal strategy to document collateral effects of COVID-19 on the economy of households. Okay. What else we are, another example, for instance, is to see, for instance, what the International Labor Organization is, what that organization have in place, for instance, at the global level or in countries to monitor impact of COVID-19 on labor, job loss, job gains, change of working habits, and how this is affecting job security and eventually vulnerable populations, etc. Okay, so this is a concrete example of, for instance, 2 strategies to monitor collateral effects of COVID-19 on labor and, for instance, on economy of households. This is the kind of strategies we want to try to map as systematically as possible. Those kind of strategies, monitoring strategies, exist as well in the sector, for instance, of education. Okay, so on education, for instance, the impact of COVID-19 on the maintenance in school of girls, for instance. So what are the strategies? Are they using any kind of routine data collection? Are they using any kind of survey, transverse cross-sectional survey? Or are they using any kind of online monitoring, any kind of standard routine data collection strategies to monitor COVID-19 related collateral effects? Okay, so it can be that they do not exist. It can be that they have been developed at global scale, but they are not adopted and translated into reality at country level. So it is all about those elements that we want to map out. Okay. Just to finish and have further questions. So about the stakeholder mapping and ethical review. So when we will do the stakeholder mapping, we will ask who is doing what about collateral effect of COVID-19 in the 15 countries of. So when we are really asking who is doing what, with which influence, with which resources, interests, and network in terms of COVID-19 collateral effect on vulnerabilities, we will have a kind of map of the stakeholders. Some lines will be probably further documented than others, but this will be all fair and it can help us identify gaps in availability of information on stakeholders on the issues as well. That is key, but we will be doing all of this mainly grounded on literature review, mainly working with literature review, with our own knowledges and with our informal discussions and interactions, reviewing media, etc., to map who is doing what about collateral effect of COVID-19. The idea is to use the list that those stakeholders and engage them. So the 5th component of recover is a transversal component that is starting since from the middle of the year 1. That is grounded around the setting up of an engagement platform, a continuous engagement platform. And this is the place to highlight the key role a special dedicated communication assistant will be playing in engaging with those stakeholders and using, setting up a learning and a platform in which we will engage with all those stakeholders and ensure that what we will be developing in the Recover project remain relevant to them and include the voice and include what they want this to be, so that also the optic of the policy framework we will develop will be, the chances will be as high as possible. Then as well, eventually, it is not just about elaborating, using them to elaborate the deep dive protocol. It can be also that some of those stakeholders can become key informants for the deep dive. This is a, let's say, a secondary objective also of the stakeholder mapping. But when we will identify the case studies, a whole protocol will be developed for the deep dives, but that will be somewhere in the middle of the year 2 of the project, okay? After the completion of the rapid assessment. And then at this stage, we will have the protocol fully developed. Then we'll have only 5 protocols, probably circumscribed on a key set of countries. And then we will seek ethical approval for those protocols in countries where those case studies will be focusing on. Okay? So
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to draw you back, but I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
So the engagement you're talking about,
yes,
which you said will be in component 5,
yes,
it's not research based.
No.
It's not for as key informants. So it will not require ethical clearance. That's what you're trying to say. It will only be those that will be involved in the deep dive that will seek ethical clearance.
So ethical clearance will be sought from countries where, so in which the deep dives will be implemented.
Okay.
Okay. And then those ethical clearance will apply for all what will be collection of primary data to inform the deep dives. Okay. So the setting of the platform will be a continuous communication and, activity organized in a way to engage the key stakeholders that will be instrumental and key or critical for the adoption of the policy framework that will be developed out of this project. Okay. So the literature review, we are open to see what will be available out there on collateral effect of COVID-19. We know that there are a lot of blogs, comments, empirical data on collateral effect maybe are not a lot yet, but definitely I think there are some publications that are popping out on effect of COVID-19 on the use of maternal health services, for instance, on effect of COVID-19 on the access to on gender-based violence, COVID-19 effect on the sterilization of newborn of girls, etc. So there are a lot of things in media. People are saying a lot of things, but then definitely this literature review and document review can help us critically assess as well what people are saying, discussing the fact on which they ground their assumptions, their conclusions, etc., so that we can be sure that we have a clear overview on what exists in terms of information, with which power or with which weakness regarding collateral effect of COVID-19 in the region.
So the review will not be about scientific publication, even newspaper, blogs, anything will be part of it. Because most of what you mentioned are typically found in newspaper, blogs, but studies that you can say that they have scientific basis and they follow scientific methods and rigor, very, very limited. But maybe when we get to that point, see what's there.
Okay, that is all this the message, huh? So that we at least we support our rationale by saying we have done this and we found only 2 papers. Okay, let's move on and show that there is a gap on documenting this and this and this. Kadi.
Merci. Moi, je voulais revenir sur les cartographies. Après avoir écouté les discussions, ce que j'ai compris, c'est que la cartographie des parties prenantes, qui fait quoi et comment, permettra non seulement de connaître les acteurs, mais aussi d'avoir une cartographie des stratégies qui ont été mises en œuvre dans les pays pour gérer l'effet COVID. Ça, c'est un. Et deuxièmement, il y aura une cartographie des stratégies mises en œuvre pour suivre les effets collatéraux du COVID. C'est ça que je veux comprendre. Pour suivre, ça veut dire, en anglais, vous dites monitoring. Est-ce que c'est ça, c'est pour comprendre les effets collatéraux ou bien pour suivre?
C'est comme la surveillance, pour surveiller.
Pour surveiller.
Ou pour documenter.
Pour surveiller ou pour documenter.
Les effets collatéraux de la COVID.
Donc, c'est pour voir dans les pays qu'est-ce qui est mis en œuvre pour suivre ou pour documenter les effets collatéraux.
Oui, c'est ça.
OK. Et maintenant, il y a la revue de la littérature pour voir ce que la science dit sur les effets collatéraux reconnus dans les pays.
Oui, c'est ça.
Ouais, parce qu'il y avait une confusion pour moi par rapport à documenter, suivi, monitoring. Je ne comprenais pas vraiment. Je me demandais, est-ce que c'est les effets collatéraux, c'est pour gérer les effets, les stratégies pour gérer les effets collatéraux ou bien c'est pour suivre? Je ne comprenais pas. Maintenant, ce que j'ai compris, c'est que dans la première partie, cartographie des acteurs, ça permettra en même temps de faire ressortir les différentes stratégies qui ont été mises en œuvre pour gérer les effets collatéraux et par quel acteur.
C'est ça.
Donc, il va falloir...
Qui fait quoi? Avec quelles ressources pour mitiguer les effets collatéraux, à propos des effets collatéraux de la COVID-19 dans les 15 pays de la CEDEAO. Donc, pour le stakeholder mapping, la question est là. Who is working in what sector? Qui travaille dans quel secteur? Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? Où? Avec quelles ressources? Quelle influence? Quel intérêt? Quel réseau par rapport aux effets collatéraux de la COVID-19 sur les vulnérabilités? C'est la question complète de notre stakeholder mapping. Donc, j'imagine un grand tableau. So, I imagine this as a big Excel sheet where you have actor. This person is an individual. He's running an NGO working in the north region of Burkina Faso to mitigate, to provide funds to the displaced population because of terrorism and help them wear masks against COVID-19. This is, for instance, a complete line of documenting an NGO working in the north of Burkina Faso to do something about reducing the burden of COVID-19 on displaced population in north of Burkina Faso. This is one line, for instance, of actor. Okay. This person received fund from UK or from France, for instance. Okay. Another line can be the Ministry of Health officially is providing masks or is providing hand washing machine in schools, especially targeting, I don't know, regions where there are a lot of displaced people, so that in those schools, kids do not transmit COVID-19 to their parents at home, for instance. Okay. So when you take a stakeholder, you say why you choose this stakeholder. So when you say you take a stakeholder, you need to say why. So this is where you are forced to say what he's doing, with which resource, with which influence, and where. Okay. And eventually, it can be critical as well to highlight who is supposed to do something, but is not doing it, for instance. Okay. If there is a country national response team, committee, the National Country Response Committee is only working on distributing hand washing machines, but they are not doing this and this and this. In the comment in your description about the National Committee, you can ask this and add this as well. Okay. There was a question, there was two hands there, yes.
Michel, Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci, Michel.
Je veux comprendre, moi, excusez-moi, je suis sociologue. Nous, les sociologues, on travaille avant toute activité avec des concepts bien définis et bien clairs.
Très bien.
Jean-Paul, dans ton exposé, qui a été vraiment brillant et intéressant, tu as parlé d'effets collatéraux.
Très bien.
La première question, qu'est-ce qu'on entend par effets collatéraux? Deuxième question, tu as parlé de stratégie. Tu as dit déjà, j'ai commencé un peu à comprendre, mais j'ai besoin de plus de clarification. Tu as parlé de qui fait quoi par rapport par rapport à suivre, c'est ça? Suivre ou bien
À la surveillance.
Par rapport à surveiller
les effets collatéraux.
Les effets collatéraux. Ce qui me gêne un peu, c'est le concept de stratégie utilisé ici. Qu'est-ce qu'on entend ici par stratégie? Maintenant, troisième chose, c'est que j'avais une vague idée de ce que lorsqu'on devait faire si on doit faire l'étude, l'évaluation rapide sur les résultats, comment on appelle ça, ce qui a été produit comme étude ou bien comme comme connaissance sur la COVID, ça consistait à recenser les différentes productions et puis faire soit une synthèse ou bien faire une petite analyse pour dire, par exemple, en Côte d'Ivoire, voilà, ils ont écrit sur la COVID dans tel secteur, ils ont écrit sur la COVID sur tel aspect. Ou bien au Ghana, ils ont fait ça, ils ont écrit sur tel aspect concernant la COVID et puis ils ont écrit sur un autre aspect concernant la COVID. Donc, ce que je cherche à comprendre, qu'est-ce que l'on doit exactement faire ici? Parce que ce qui a été dit, je suppose que effets collatéraux, c'est de manière générale, générique pour tous les pays dans lesquels l'étude est déployée. Okay. Je veux dire qu'il n'est pas forcément, c'est en fonction plutôt de ce que l'on va découvrir que l'on va produire le rapport. Donc, je trouve que parler d'effets collatéraux, déjà, c'est quelque peu, comment je peux, c'est comme si on forçait la main quelque part. Si vous comprenez si tu comprends ce dont je veux parler. Je veux dire qu'on part du fait que nous, on ne sait pas grand-chose, on ne sait rien de ce qui a été produit comme connaissance et nous, on va pour découvrir ce qui a été produit et on rapporte ça. Est-ce que vous comprenez?
Sur les effets collatéraux.
S'il y a effets collatéraux, s'il n'y en a pas aussi, Mais moi, je pense que c'était pour les écrits plutôt qui ont été produits, pas forcément sur les effets collatéraux.
Sur la COVID en général.
Sur la COVID en général, oui.
Donc, je vais clarifier ceci. Nous n'allons pas faire la revue de littérature pour documenter tout ce qui a été écrit sur COVID-19. Non. Ce n'est pas l'objet. Que ce soit biologie, microbiologie, fonctionnalité des tests, séroprévalence, que ce soit épidémiologie, que ce soit politique, non. Nous sommes concentrés sur les travaux qui ont rapport avec les effets collatéraux. Le mot effet collatéral, au moment de spécifier la stratégie de revue, on peut avoir à adapter les mots-clés de notre recherche. Dans la littérature, on pourrait avoir l'expression effet collatéral qui existe. On peut avoir d'autres expressions qui désignent la même chose. Dommages collatéraux, effet indirect, effet inattendu, conséquences inattendues, conséquences indirectes. Donc, il y a tout un jargon ou différents types de termes qui peuvent être utilisés pour désigner ce même type d'effet. Dans notre présentation et dans notre proposal, nous avons une définition conceptuelle de départ claire sur ce que nous entendons par effet collatéral. Et nous avons identifié 3 types de niveaux. Les effets collatéraux de niveau 1, les effets collatéraux de niveau 2, les effets collatéraux de niveau 3. Je vais donner une chaîne d'exemples précise. Dans un pays que je ne vais pas nommer, lorsque la COVID-19 a commencé, le 2e ou le 3e décès a eu lieu dans une clinique privée. D'accord? Je peux dire la conséquence directe de la COVID-19, c'est ce décès par rapport à la COVID-19. Mais effet collatéral de niveau 1, par mesure de jurisprudence, le gouvernement a décidé de fermer cette clinique. D'accord? La fermeture de cette clinique est un effet collatéral de niveau 1, qui a eu plein d'autres conséquences. Donc, il y a des personnes qui ont perdu leurs emplois, il y a des personnes qui ont eu à réduire qui ont perdu leurs emplois, qui sont restés en chômage technique, etc. Le gouvernement a pris des mesures ensuite pour réduire l'impact de la COVID-19, par exemple, sur les conséquences socio-économiques pour la population, pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. D'accord? Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait comme mesure? Ils ont, par exemple, fait des transferts de fonds monétaires vers les petites et moyennes entreprises, dans l'objectif de réduire l'impact de la fermeture de certains centres sur la vie des populations. N'est-ce pas? Ça, c'est pas exemple un effet collatéral de niveau 2. Mais, exemple d'effet collatéral de niveau 3, lorsqu'on a eu à faire ce transfert monétaire, éventuellement, c'est des reconversions de ressources qui ont permis de faire ce transfert. Ce n'était pas des lignes budgétaires qui étaient planifiées au départ. D'accord? De quelle ligne a-t-on redirigé les ressources pour pouvoir faire ce genre de transfert monétaire? Par exemple, il y a des projets pour la nutrition qui étaient planifiés, qui avaient des ressources en plusieurs milliards, qui ont été reconvertis, par exemple, pour pouvoir faire ce transfert monétaire pour réduire l'impact. Donc, les conséquences liées à cette réorientation de ressources peuvent être considérées, par exemple, comme des effets collatéraux de niveau 3. Okay? Donc, nous sommes ici donc dans une chaîne de conséquences où, de la COVID-19 au départ, du décès, au Bénin, par exemple, il y a eu à peine 100 décès. 100 décès à peine de COVID-19. Et nous avons peut-être un certain nombre de formations sanitaires qui ont été fermées. Nous avons eu des personnes, des structures qui ont été fermées pour réduire la propagation. Nous avons eu des chefs d'entreprise qui sont décédés et qui ont laissé leur entreprise à l'abandon. Ça, c'est des effets collatéraux de niveau 1. L'État a dû prendre des mesures pour pouvoir réduire ces effets collatéraux de niveau 1. Quelles sont les conséquences de ces mesures? D'accord? Donc ça, c'est des effets collatéraux de niveau 2. Maintenant, l'État même a pu prendre conscience qu'il a dû, par exemple, faire des réorientations de ressources, etc., et que cela a créé des vides et des gaps quelque part. Quelles sont les conséquences de ces gaps que cela a créé? D'accord? Donc, l'enjeu, c'est d'ouvrir notre esprit à la chaîne des conséquences. Et là, j'introduis le principe, l'approche méthodologique clé de la pensée systémique, à laquelle nous allons tous nous exercer dans le cadre de cette revue rapide. Et nous allons demain avoir une session de formation qui sera délivrée par l'Institut de médecine tropicale à travers une collègue très brillante, Clara Afun, qui est du Nigeria, mais qui travaille actuellement à l'Institut de médecine tropicale d'Anvers, qui va nous entretenir sur la pensée systémique et comment cela peut nous inspirer et nous accompagner dans cette revue rapide pour nous amener à réfléchir à ce type de chaîne de conséquences indirectes, où A crée B, crée C, crée D, crée E, crée F, crée G, etc. Je conclus en disant que dans cette démarche de revue rapide, nous allons avoir une approche explorative. Donc, c'est un sujet relativement nouveau. Vous allez constater, comme Indie Omar l'a dit, très peu documenté. Il y a très peu de publications sur ce type de sujet. Beaucoup de personnes sont intéressées sur le nombre de décès, sur le nombre etc. Et quelques personnes travaillent sur l'impact sur la réduction de l'utilisation des services de santé maternelle, par exemple. Mais très peu de personnes iront jusqu'à dire on a eu à faire des réorientations de financement des projets de nutrition pour lutter contre la COVID-19. Ces projets de nutrition étaient censés servir à des populations. Que sont devenues ces populations, par exemple? D'accord? Donc, nous allons explorer un peu vraiment le champ. Cette exploration sera non seulement conceptuelle, nous allons clarifier des concepts, nous allons définir de nouveaux champs de groupes vulnérables, nous allons définir de nouveaux champs d'effets, de conséquences, nous allons documenter un certain nombre d'éléments et nous allons vraiment faire cette synthèse à la fin de cette revue rapide. Avec cette revue rapide, nous allons à la pêche, en quelque sorte, de tout ce qu'on peut documenter. Une pêche guidée par notre cadre d'analyse, la pensée systémique, l'approche genre, un esprit apprenant, un esprit exploratoire, et puis nous ferons la synthèse après, consolider tout ça, clarifier conceptuellement et choisir maintenant les études de cas pour aller en profondeur sur quelques cas précis et revenir maintenant pour développer notre approche politique. Mais tout au long du processus, nous allons garder un canal de communication et d'implication permanente des différents détenteurs d'enjeux pour être sûr que nous sommes à l'écoute et que nous arrivons à capturer les attentes des différentes parties et l'intelligence collective le plus richement possible. Cher ami Michel, est-ce que socio-anthropologiquement, tu te sens assis? Ça va? Un peu. Une partie. Hein? Mais une fois qu'ils ont dit oui, tu es sûr que tu as gagné les élections. Mais au moins, est-ce qu'on a avancé dans la réflexion? On a avancé?
Oui, nous sommes avancés.
Merci beaucoup. C'est déjà
en
ça.
partie. Hein.
En partie. OK. Abdoulaye.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Pierre. Vraiment, j'apprécie beaucoup la façon dont vous êtes en train de mener le débat. Je suis aussi anthropologue, hein, donc et il y a le mot qui aussi sert à un peu documenter ce genre d'événements qui s'appelle un peu effet pervers aussi, quoi. Donc dans la littérature, on peut rencontrer ça. En fait, c'est que souvent, quand je vous écoute, j'ai deux problèmes. Vous allez m'aider à la gestion de la COVID-19, c'est vrai, on a créé beaucoup plus de problèmes, peut-être que la COVID elle-même a créé de façon directe. Les retombées de la gestion de cette maladie a provoqué énormément d'effets indirects, c'est-à-dire d'effets qui n'étaient pas voulues, quoi, ou encore des conséquences latentes. Ça, je suis parfaitement d'accord. L'autre problème, peut-être qui me pose, c'est que dans nos pays, rarement est-ce que au niveau de nos systèmes de santé ou des autorités sanitaires, c'est pas assez documenté malheureusement en tant qu'effet pervers. Et si on doit faire une stratégie, si on doit documenter les stratégies, par exemple au Mali, je pourrais être un peu plus simple, de voir un peu comment faire une cartographie des effets pervers générés par la gestion de la COVID-19. Moi, en tant qu'anthropologue, je peux très bien le faire, mais est-ce qu'au niveau de la santé, c'est pas évident, quoi. Peut-être que ce serait une trouvaille pour dire qu'effectivement, au Mali, il n'existe pas, et bien qu'il existe des effets secondaires, mais il n'existe pas une stratégie ou encore des études pour pouvoir documenter les effets pervers de type niveau 1, 2, 3, quoi. Ça va être un peu difficile. Ça, c'est de façon pratique, quoi. Pour vous donner un exemple, tout récemment, nous avons mené une étude au niveau de l'hôpital en termes de résilience par rapport à tous ces problèmes qui ont été créés. Qu'est-ce que l'hôpital a fait pour pouvoir compenser un peu tous ces déficits-là? Mais au niveau de l'hôpital, quand vous posez la question aux responsables hospitaliers, ils ne vont pas vous parler en termes d'effets secondaires. Ils vont vous dire, bon, c'est les impacts, voilà. On n'avait pas assez de consultations. Par exemple, le bloc opératoire a été fermé, les labos ont été fermés et ça nous a fait un manque à gagner de 100 millions ou de 200 millions. Ouais, un peu. Donc, c'est quand même, c'est le fait que les gens aient peur d'aller à l'hôpital pour ne pas se faire contaminer, qui ne sont pas venus. Et comme ils n'avaient pas aussi de dispositifs pour pouvoir opérer les gens, c'est-à-dire qu'ils n'ont pas opéré parce qu'il y avait aussi la COVID. Donc, l'impact, il est là, mais ce n'est pas documenté en termes de conséquences d'effets pervers. Maintenant, la question que j'aimerais me poser, si nous allons cartographier un peu ces conséquences-là, comme ce n'est pas documenté en termes de stratégie au Mali, comment nous allons la documenter? C'est vrai que c'est des effets pervers et dans tous les secteurs, que ce soit dans les secteurs de la santé, de l'éducation, au niveau par exemple même comme vous l'avez vu, de la nutrition santé, on a dans pas mal même dans le domaine du transport, il y en a. Comment nous allons les documenter, quoi? Parce que ce n'est pas documenté en tant que tel au niveau de nos autorités. Parce que même s'il y en a, ils ne sont pas conscients ou ce n'est pas documenté. Et nous, comment on va faire ça? C'est ma question.
Merci beaucoup. Je profite pour prendre la question de Rodion.
D'accord, merci. Allô, ok. Ma question porte sur le point, voilà, de la revue de la littérature, et vous avez sur lequel on n'est pas revenu jusque-là, c'est analyse secondaire. Est-ce que vous pouvez élaborer là-dessus? Qu'est-ce que vous entendez par secondaire? Et puis, le livrable, c'est un rapport pays, mais est-ce qu'il y a une deadline par rapport à ça? Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais prendre Kébé Fatou et après Kébé Fatou, nous allons clôturer cette phase de discussion et avancer un peu. D'accord? Alors, est-ce que effet collatéraux est égal à effet pervers? Non, et non, et non, et non. Nous avons dit non, non, et non. Et là où je vais challenger un peu les socio-anthropologues un peu aussi. Dans notre définition des effets collatéraux, nous ne sommes pas concentrés seulement sur les effets négatifs. Les effets pervers, non. Donc, dans la proposition au départ, je pense que ça a joué un rôle important aussi dans ce que nous avons eu dans le gain de ce projet. C'est qu'on avait un tableau comme ça à 4 entrées, avec positif ou négatif, attendu, inattendu. Donc, une façon de classer les effets en 4 catégories. Effet positif attendu, effet positif inattendu, effet négatif attendu, effet négatif, si vous avez suivi, vous allez connaître le 4e, effet négatif inattendu. D'accord? Nous sommes partis du principe que toute intervention, toute situation peut avoir ces 4 types d'effets. Les effets positifs attendus, les effets positifs inattendus, les effets négatifs attendus, les effets négatifs inattendus. D'accord? Éventuellement, tout le monde pense tout de suite à des effets pervers. Quand on dit effets pervers, c'est souvent des effets peut-être négatifs inattendus ou des effets négatifs attendus, qu'on peut appeler des effets pervers. Mais on peut avoir aussi des effets positifs inattendus ou comme des effets positifs attendus, en faisant des effets positifs attendus. Et tous ces types d'effets peuvent être directs ou indirects. Et comme indirects, ils peuvent être de premier niveau, de deuxième niveau ou encore de troisième niveau. D'accord? C'est là où la complexité commence à rentrer. Et de ces phrases simples-là, je suis sûr que les socio-anthropologues vont s'amuser. Ils vont se faire plaisir à trouver des sous-catégories d'effets. Je donne un exemple, le lavage des mains. Est-ce que cela réduit les infections diarrhéiques, par exemple? Est-ce que cela réduit le fardeau lié aux maladies diarrhéiques? Le fait qu'on s'est lavé les mains plus que jamais partout dans l'histoire. Est-ce que, par exemple, le fait qu'on a fait plus de télétravail a réduit les accidents de la voie publique, par exemple? Est-ce que ça a réduit la mauvaise qualité de l'air? Est-ce que la qualité de l'air s'est améliorée dans nos régions parce que les transports ont été diminués? Donc, par effet collatéraux, nous restons ouverts aussi à être positivement et agréablement surpris par des points. Et c'est là où je pense que c'est très important de garder cette ouverture et je pense que c'est aussi innovant pour nous parce que nous maintenons mieux l'attention des gens lorsque notre discours est nuancé, en prenant en compte aussi bien ce qui peut être considéré comme négatif, mais aussi en restant ouvert à l'idée que ce que nous faisons peut avoir aussi des externalités positives, des effets positifs ou négatifs. Donc, nous allons progresser juste après avoir pris Kébé Fatou. Fatou?
Okay. Pour moi, je pense que ma préoccupation a été prise en partie par Kadio, parce que vu que la revue rapide consiste, d'après la façon dont vous l'avez libellé, à faire une cartographie des parties prenantes, voir les effets collatéraux et voir quelles sont les stratégies utilisées. Moi, je pense qu'on peut regrouper ces 3 composantes en faisant une cartographie approfondie pour pouvoir les renseigner en même temps. Parce que si on voit la façon dont vous l'avez labelé, c'est comme si on a l'impression qu'il y a 3 choses à faire, 3 choses différentes. Or, si on fait une cartographie approfondie, on peut voir qui fait quoi, comment elle le fait, avec quelle cible, qui l'influence, où il le fait et quels sont les effets. Je pense qu'on peut revoir ensemble, soit au niveau de la méthodologie, comment on va revoir cette partie et le faire en un seul travail. C'est ça ma préoccupation.
Donc, nous allons éventuellement revenir tout à l'heure dans les groupes par cluster sur le détail des approches méthodologiques. Le défi de l'approche que tu proposes peut vraiment combiner les éléments. Le défi étant que ce n'est pas aisé d'identifier les effets qui résultent de l'effet de l'inaction. OK? Seulement parce que personne ne fait rien par rapport à ça. D'accord? Donc, lorsque nous utilisons les détenteurs d'enjeux pour tracer les effets secondaires, les effets collatéraux, nous aurons du mal à aller tomber sur les effets collatéraux qui résultent de gap, qui résultent du vide, de l'inaction, du fait que personne ne s'intéresse à une question donnée. D'accord? Et qu'il n'y a pas d'acteur. C'est pas parce qu'il n'y a pas un suivi de ces éléments-là et qu'il y a un vide par rapport à telle ou telle composante. D'accord? Donc, on part en exploration et en faisant la synthèse, nous avons prévu toute une composante pour la consolidation des résultats, leur structuration, afin d'identifier les deep dives. Donc, à cette phase de structuration, on pourra voir si cette façon de résumer pourrait être la meilleure. Okay. Donc, le temps, please, Selina, combien de temps nous avons encore? Okay. So we can just finish this session with a few overview on a small overview on the structure of implementation. Okay. And some point about the deadline. So, the rapid assessment have to be complete by the first quarter of the year 2 of the project. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is supposed to last 12 months, starting from January 2021. Starting from, November, December, January. Starting from February 2021. Donc, the rapid review have to be completed by February 2022. Everything, including the report. Okay? By February 2022, everything about the rapid review will be done. Donc, février 2022, tout ce que nous devons faire par rapport à la revue des rapides sera réalisé, y compris la rédaction des rapports. Okay. So probably the data collection have to be completed somewhere by September or latest by November 2021. So really give time for processing, doing iterations, having draft report that will be shared, consolidated. And don't forget that from country report, we will have now to move on to regional comparative report. Okay. Rodion.
Du coup, vu qu'il y a une idée de comparer derrière, est-ce que vous avez pensé à un plan de rapport harmonisé pour que ce soit facile derrière pour
Oui. So we will have a report template. It's relatively standard report template to ease the reporting and ease the comparability. Yes.
I would like to also ask since it's country-based, reports are country-wise submitted. Will it be needed to collect them on the country cluster area and send one, or each country will be sending individually to?
So this is this introduced me to the responsibilities of various parties. Okay. So we have 5 implementing partners. So do you know the 5 implementing partners? So there is one implementing partner is Sirut in Benin. Sirut in Benin is in charge of implementation of the project in 3 countries, Benin, Niger, and Togo. The implementing partner 2 is Gimpa or Chespor in Ghana, in charge of implementing the project in Guinea-Bissau, Capo Verde, and Gambia. The implementing partner 3 is Niger, is AIHPHS. I like to call it Abakaliki because it sounds beautiful for me. Niger is Nigeria. Okay. And Nigeria is a cluster for its own. Then we have CEA PCMT in Guinea with Guinea, Mali, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And then we have ERSS in Burkina Faso operating in Burkina Faso, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. So those implementing organizations have the ceiling accountability to ensure that all what have to be delivered in the clusters are delivered. They are in charge of doing all they have to do for the output to be delivered in a country, in the clusters, the respective clusters. But in the respective clusters, they have country teams. So they have a country team in Togo, country team in Niger, and a country team in Benin, etc., etc. And those country teams have a ceiling responsibility toward the implementing partner to do all what they have to do for the report to be ready on time. Okay. So the country cluster team, we dream of it, and it will be like this. We'll be really working as a family, as a team, with rigor, mutual respect of deadlines, so that what have to be delivered get delivered on time. Okay. Yes.
So that differs the timeline for submission from the country to the clusters, because they have to come to the clusters for them to compile them and then now move them on to the regional.
Yes.
Before that could also be comparatively written.
Yes.
So the deadline is not the same for everybody, which is the February 2022.
So at February 22, the whole project submit a report to RDRC. For that to be true, countries have to be ready, compiled at the level of clusters. Clusters have to process, harmonize, verify, because they have a ceiling responsibility of the content of the quality of the report. And then they report it back to the regional level. The regional level operate, perform the comparison, work together with implementing partners to develop the comparison. And then this report get ready by January 2022 to get processed, reviewed, confirmed, and submitted by February 2022. Rodion.
In effect, do we have a deadline for countries and then clusters or not? Or we need to define that ourselves?
So we have to define that together.
All right.
But then if democracy fail, then dictatorship will take place. Sorry?
Suggesting December 2021, so that, sorry? Yes, then the regional harmonization will happen January, submission will happen February.
By experience, comparison across countries can take some time. We have to foresee in about 6 weeks at least for that to be quite well done. Minimum. So what I will suggest is that when we will move in country, in clusters, discussion. So discuss what can appear to you to be a reasonable timeline for you to deliver by December 2021 a cluster, a cluster ready, fully checked report that includes the various specific country reports. Let's move from that generic orientation. So practically, what have to be done in June, in July, in August, in September, in November, so that in December, country report, well checked and corrected, reviewed, compiled at the cluster level are ready.
Yes.
And there will be a gift for the cluster who will be.
Yes. So in terms of the deadline.
Yes.
For country.
Yes.
We're in a pandemic. knowing fully well getting these stakeholders together is going to be a bit of a challenge. And now this is the 6th month of the year. We have just 6 months to December, or 8 months to the submission of the project. So data collection or stakeholder mapping hasn't been done yet. And we know that it won't be done in the next week or so. We'll probably start in July. So we have to look at this timeline and see how we can rearrange it. So my suggestion, I go with her that countries or clusters can be in December. That seems fair enough.
So look at in detail this in your cluster and really see how with your team in your context. If there are countries, there are clusters, for instance, where they have started already the stakeholder mapping, for instance. This is not to say that, but there are also clusters where there are countries who are a little bit much more advanced, others are lagging behind. So discuss at the level of your cluster how you can develop operations to be ready by then. So, and then when we will come in a plenary, we will review that, align, and see who are more laxist than others. Ready? Okay. So I think what we still have to do is the template, but we will ensure this get bit ready before the end of launch. So while we will be moving next step into the cluster working groups, you will receive that orientation document, review it, discuss about it, enrich it, empower it, and then build on that so that we can have the premises and the first principles for our rapid assessment. Thank you very much. One last word from Fatou. Okay. Okay.
C'est ma dernière question qui devait être la première. Est-ce l'évaluation rapide qui sera considérée comme l'étude situationnelle dans le cadre du projet? Bien, c'est une question.
C'est une analyse de situation. C'est comme une analyse situationnelle. Ça peut aller? Okay. It is like a situational analysis. We can say that. Okay, thank you very much for this very interactive and engaging session. Let's teach one way of applauding in Benin that we can import into here because it makes it much more engaging. Okay. So when I give the top, you just, instead of doing, just put some kind of music in it and simply do something like top. And then with all your heart, you give it like a blessing to the one you want to send it to. Okay? Top. And then the one you give it to. So let's do one for the chair. Okay. Top. Traveling sounds to give. Okay. So thank you very much, and let's keep it there for now. So what's for now is lunch, and then after lunch we move into cluster teams. Everybody, do you know to which cluster you belong? Okay. So that's clear. So cluster leaders.
Where is it?
The cluster leaders are for Benin. Ashim will assume the leadership of the cluster. I will support on that. For the cluster 2, here you have Ina Kedi. The cluster 3, Yoma. The cluster 4, Kadu. The cluster 5. Okay, thank you.
Please discuss with your cluster leads where you are meeting. So for cluster 2, please come back here so we can have our meeting here. And you can decide to have it by the pool or wherever you decide to. Please be within time, okay? We have 40 minutes for break. Enjoy your lunch and we'll see you soon. Cluster 2 here. Yes. Please, the lunch is at the restaurant. You have to. Oh gosh. You know where the restaurant is?
Yes.
Okay, those of you who are lodging here know where the restaurant is. Those who.
It's not the same place in the wherever the.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same place you had breakfast this morning. If you didn't have breakfast, ask. It's outside there somewhere, please.